Okay. Future. Teacher minimize. Okay. So if you remember that yesterday we're talking about common characteristics of developing countries, where we're talking about, first we're talking about low income level, low in terms of human capital, we having like poor hygiene factors, and we're talking about infrastructure, and we're talking about those financial institutions not being properly established. Okay? So then we move on in terms of what may actually terms be having that kita sampai dominance, okay, in a way other than talking about begin. Okay, so the first thing talking about talking about characteristics, of course, we're talking about all the low income, standard of living, quality of life, inadequate educations, and we're talking about productivity is actually reflected by the education systems, right? And then we have talking about, then we say that these people have a lot of people, very high growth rates, and also they having a lot of dependence burdens, talking about kids, they have so many kids, or they have to support the elders. So making that what you earn need to be spread to many people. Then that's why we're talking about birth rate, child rates, death rates is becoming a factor. And then this is totally different compared to different developing countries where the birth rate is kind of low. Okay. Then we're talking about the employments, okay, which is having very low employments or very high unemployments, and at the same time they also have underemployments, means that people are looking for a job but they only manage to have part-time jobs rather than full-time jobs, or they are graduates but still not being able to have a graduate job and so on because of opportunities in terms of career opportunities will be limited because the economy has not developed so much. Then we're talking about the sustainable dependence on agriculture. So talking about the sector of economy very much depends on agriculture, and at the same time primary products, where the sector itself limits their expansions due to the nature of elasticity being inelastic, and they are not income elastic, means that as people earnings or global earning increases, the demand, the industry does not expand so much. Very unlike to the developed nations, they have a more of the services industry or tertiary industry, that's as earnings increases, as global economy increase or income increases, so is the demand for their industry. Okay, then we're talking about let's go down to prevalence of imperfect markets and limited information. So talking about, they do have a lot of imperfect markets, a lot of maybe parallel markets. Okay, at the same time, limited information simply because the people have limited knowledge or information about the services or the industry or maybe the technologies and so on. So make them more vulnerable to and not being able to make a better decision simply because your information is kind of limited. Okay, and this can also happen when we go to the market failure. But for the different countries that have this issue, this kind of a serious nature, maybe because of their limited education backgrounds. Okay. Then dominance and dependence are vulnerable of international relations. So this is something we add on. Okay, in almost all cases, different countries are dominated. So talking about being colonized, and of course, you depending on this country that invade us. For example, in what else would be on the English, right? The UK people, and also we depends on their transfer of technology and so on. So dependence ratio is very high. Another one would be, for example, African country, Caribbean countries are very much been invaded by France, so that's why the relationship with the France is a lot better. Okay, and variety in terms of international relations. So talking about they are so uh, bit small. We don't say small, but they are less developed, a lot less developed than other nations. Okay, now I try to go as much as possible so that next week we can go into new topics that you present. Okay, okay. Now we're talking about the common things that we can see is about different countries. Let's go by in what way they are slightly different. We can have a look of internal resource endowment. So we're talking about, do they have resources with them? So talking they are they blessed with the resources? So some countries like Myanmar, Laos, or maybe Cambodia, they are blessed with gems. Some countries like African countries, they have diamonds, they have golds, like African countries. So maybe they have petroleum. So every countries they have its own characteristics, they have their own factor endowments, but some countries they may not have the natural resources endowments. You know, they have maybe a land, the land may not be fertile, or they have a land may be fertile, or the lands that generate incomes, they have minerals or diamonds or gems, whatever, or stones, for example. Okay, so different countries have different endowments, so that also limits their potentials in terms of economic growth and developments. If they have minerals, if they have commodities, they can use it as their source of incomes. If they don't, then they need to look at other ways to produce goods or services or to export their items. So what do they have? Okay. So now the next time will be on talking different historical backgrounds. So everyone is unique on its own historical backgrounds, whether been colonized Malaysia, Thailand has never been colonized, right? And maybe on Indonesia, for example, or even Thailand, since over here our example is Singapore, Hong Kong, and others. So everyone has his own history, his own past and backgrounds. Okay. Okay, there are different geographical and demographical factors. So geographical in terms of the nature, right? A big, small, right? For example, China, Brazil, India, even Malaysia and others, Jamaica's, okay? And the demographic factors could be on the compositions, maybe in terms of the labor force itself, how many youngsters they have, how many elderly they have, how many of percentage of their population having education, is either secondary, tertiary, and so on. So there's also influence the abilities of the nation itself. Okay. Then we do have population. So a country like Malaysia only have 33 million compared to a country of Indonesia having like almost 290 something, 93 maybe millions people. Okay, and a country of New Zealand having plus minus 5 million is more or less the same size of the population in Singapore. Okay, so we do have Ghana and Fiji, but on general, these developing countries, would they have a low population or high populations? Ellie?
Hi,
Ellie? Uh, hi. Hi, Olu.
hi kan teacher. Teacher, I think
Yeah.
Ali pergi toilet tu.
Okay. Thank you, Dina. Highs maybe because of, you know, the limitations of maybe talking about contraceptive or talking about birth control, both family planning may not be important. It's not been stressed over there. Okay. Then we move into a different structure of the industry itself. So talking about the nature of the industry is either of production, manufacturing of agriculture. So of course, our example here is developing countries such as Burkina Faso and Ethiopia may be a typical many in terms of family products export dependence. Okay. And but other countries like Bangladesh, Nepal are exporters of manufactured products and others. So each country has its own uh, specialty or it has its own something that they're good at. Okay. For example, Maldives is a form of very good at tourism. Okay, one question. Maldives is name of a beach, a state of a country.
Country kan teacher.
Maldives is a country. Okay. Kalau Bali macam just like Western countries who says Bali is a country, but they do not know Bali is part of Indonesia. Okay, there are differences in per capita income level. So this is the income per capita. So even though we say is that they are low different countries, does not means the income per capita are very low as a standard, very low. So we do have a range of income per capita. And if you notice that we always look at purchasing power parity, USSM, purchasing power parity or PPP, simply because to indicate or to have a more standardized comparisons in terms of purchasing power. So we make it a more accurate comparison. Okay, so we have the HDI index, we have GDP. So HDI index represents the standard of living. Uh, Okay, so we have HDI rank over here. So which one do we look at? The higher the number or the lower the number? Ethiopia. Saya nakkan kat sini soalan dia bawa the Ethiopia. So so it means that we are looking at the top over there. Okay. And income per capita. That's right. Sekejap, My laptop lele blank ya.
Yes,
Kenapa?
teacher.
Kenapa laptop boleh lele blank?
I have no idea, teacher. Ani dah okay dah, teacher?
Dah okay. It's my laptop yang lele blank. Battery on. Spek kerajaan kot. Laptop kerajaan. Okay. So we can say that the even though they are grouped under different countries, they have a different range of income level, right? So if their income per capita is low, indicate how serious is, how poor is, how bad they are, how they are suffering compared to other countries. Okay, so we do have India, Pakistan, Botswana, Jamaica, and Thailand. So we can see that Thailand is a big GDP, income per capita, and is looking at purchasing power parity. So if we were to add in Malaysia, what would be do we comes after or before Thailand? Or talking about what would the HDI numbers? More than Thailand's or lower than Thailand's?
I think GDP per capita in Malaysia, I think could be higher because Thailand has so much more population compared to us. But for GDI, HDI, I think it's lower.
Okay. So Aziz, do you agree with Ayub?
I think so, teacher. I didn't read any data, so I don't know
You,
much.
you don't want. So you trust Ayub, lah.
Yes, I trust I, teacher.
Okay. But I agree with Ayub anyway. Okay, so we may not be that much difference, but slightly better than say, Thailand. Not that much difference. Okay. So this is what happens, difference in political structure. So maybe we are here, we having the monarchies, but parliaments, is that right? With democracies, we have multi-rules like Myanmar, kan sekarang ni kan? Is it Myanmar kan? Okay. And
Yes, teacher.
single party state, maybe Singapore kan? Okay. Tertiaries are talking based on ulama and so on. So every country has its own political systems. That's why they are unique, and that's why it's not easy for us to give suggestions, or maybe it's not easy for them to do to plans whatever they want for economic growth, because they have their own constraints. Okay. Now, conclusion. So, in conclusion, we can say that while there are some common characteristics, there are health-developing countries, there are certain degree of uh, uh, differences. So, of course, because we are grouping so many countries in one category, so there, of course, there will be something they share in commons, but there are others that they are totally different. Okay. Then we do have the higher level dan standard level. Tengok soalan dia. Okay, distinguish between economic growth and economic development. So these will be, okay. If we were to answer this kind of question, macam mana kita nak jawab? It's a 10 marks, economic growth and economic development.
Kalau economic growth, we can attribute it to an upward shift in the teacher PPC and a movement in real output.
Yeah, internal diagram, yes, right? You are right. And of course, we always have to start with your definitions. So the definitions in terms of increase in GDP, for example, or we're talking about economic developments, we have to explain in terms of what does economic developments. We need to come up with the index, HDI index. Okay. Then does economic growth means economic development? You can argue on that. And then economic developments referring to well-being. So definitely we're looking at income per capita. And this question is similar with a November paper bulan lepas. Your seniors, your higher level. Soalan dia, dia tak cakap economic growth and economic development. Soalan lebih kepada does economic growth brings in a better standard of living. Sama ya, sebab economic development adalah referring to well-being, standard of living. So similar things, they're talking about the is economic growth lead to standard of living. So we have it in your higher level questions paper November paper. Okay. So using PPF diagram, explain how is it possible for a country to achieve economic growth. Okay, this is PPF. So this is 10 marks. So we can say a lot of things, maybe in terms of the resources like capitals or resources of human capital. And of course, your major diagrams will be PPC curve. Okay. Online 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals. So online 3 kita semalam teacher dah suruh hafal 3 kan? Kita nak suruh siapa? Siapa nak volunteer? Humaira kan? Dah lama tak dengar suara you, Humaira.
Yes, teacher.
Kita nak 3 Sustainable Development Goal.
No poverty, gender equality, and Ni, hunger, no hunger, zero hunger.
The hungers. Okay. So kalau banyak-banyak kita gender inequality yang paling seringat dengan poverty. Okay. So make sure you hafal sebab chances dia tanya as our paper tu, dia akan tanya mungkin as a paper 2. For the essay macam not much lah yang perlu ditanya. Your paper 2. Okay, then explains the relationship between sustainability and poverty. How do you tackle this question? Rusna, tolong
Teacher.
jawab. Ya? Oh, that's higher level. Dia nak cakap dia higher level kan? Okay. You orang alert je kalau cakap higher level Okay. So this is measuring economic progress yang you akan present, is that right? Okay. Sebelum tu kita nak cakap. Have you all decided siapa yang prepare topik mana?
Teacher.
Okay. So 29 siapa yang present?
Ayib. Bro Ayib.
Okay.
Yes, teacher.
Ayib paksa rela Dia paksa rela kan?
Yes, teacher. It's random.
It's random. Okay, group 30. Topik 30.
Letitia.
Kami cikgu.
Then the other two will be siapa yang present share topik tu?
Saya Arham, teacher.
Okay, then you will split. Okay. So far, do you have any questions before kita start like 10 minutes?
Teacher,
Ya,
boleh
saya.
tanya kalau like teacher boleh pergi the question just now.
Okay, question tadi. Okay, question ni.
Teacher, kalau macam yang number 3 tu, yang outline 3 SDG tu, macam mana kita boleh hurai until sampai 10 marks?
It won't be 10 marks lah. Soalan ni bukan
Oh.
10 marks pun sebab dia kata outline kan. So this is kalau 10 marks sebagai as a quiz bukan exam So kalau exam dia akan jadi outline dan dia akan jadi 3 markah.
Oh, so dia just macam kita cakap macam gender equality and then kita bagi huraian yang macam dalam
Macam tu is good enough. So it's not a pure essay question. But macam you kata tadi kan katakan gender equality. So you need to be detail of gender equality that means specified dalam dia punya sustainable development goals. Sebab teacher takut you bagi je tapi you tak bagi habis, so marks you tak dapat. Kan? Ya kan? Sebab IB kan dia tak ada kalau dia 2 markah okey lah, kalau dia 1 markah tu silang markah. So no in detail of the goals setiap satu tu lah. Right? Okay, other than that, others, anything you like to ask? Dah senyap minta ada?
Teacher, yang PPF diagram tu PPC ke?
Yes, PPF is PPC.
Okay.
Kalau tak ada, macam kita tengok soalan yang kita.
Teacher,
Ya.
I'm a bit confused. Kalau HDI tinggi, is it better sebenarnya?
HDI tinggi is better. The will be like macam Malaysia sekarang around 80, so close to 80% or 80 number. The higher the better. The country usually Norway has been one of the top HDI index. Okay, Norway.
Teacher. Tapi kalau macam tu yang kita tengok muka surat 439 tadi tu.
Dia betul ranking tau. Dia bukan number HDI, itu ranking.
Oh, ranking. Okay.
Okay, ranking maksud dia, ranking adalah the first tu better lah. Tapi yang dia bagi tu ranking, dia tak bukan bagi dia punya, dia tak bagi HDI number.
Okay,
Empat
teacher.
buah. Family community. Tu kat mana tadi yang ranking? Atas lagi ke bawah? Ni kan. Tak ada. Bawah. Tadi ranking
Bawah lagi je. Lagi sikit.
dia ranking yang bagus sebab di bawah tu dia letak Ethiopia. So kita akan tahu Ethiopia tu is a weak country kan. So that's a good hint lah. Okay, let's go by. Nauru is a world's smallest island nation. It's covered 21 kilometer square feet. 21 kilometer tu ibarat apa? Macam you punya dorm ke? You punya hostel ke? 21 kilometer. Ke besar lagi? Ke area satu sekolah ni? Do you have any ideas?
No idea.
Macam KMP kot. Ataupun Bukit Pelabuhan Dagang. Bisa. Why would a country dahulu kenapa tak nak combine lagi dengan country lain? Being small has its own disadvantage. Soalan ni tak ada Tak banyak soalan on this.
Sovereignty ke teacher? For sovereignty, number one. And number two, sovereignty. When there's sovereignty, then they have more control over certain resources that they have, I think.
Yeah, they would like to be more on their own, right? Their identity. Malaysia HDI index rank 61. But you can, anticipate now we having a COVID-19. Things will be changed now. So we may actually maybe fall behind in terms of economic developments because so many people got hit, so many people getting poor, so many people, losing a lot of opportunity or lost life and so on. So the pandemic is a big shock to the nations and it impacts a lot on the world global economy. Ada soalan ke? Kalau tak ada, teacher end so that you have masa break time sekejap. Oh, mentor-mentee, you have a session with counselor, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Pasal apa? Pasal placement dah settle. Placement dah settle kan? Okay lah, whatever. So, kalau tak ada, teacher ends our session. Anything you would like to ask before?
Teacher, boleh
Ya.
tak teacher nak jumpa teacher sekejap?
Untuk yang EE Viva Voce. Okay?
Tidak.
Boleh juga. So the rest you